Good morning, Malik Abbas Dabo, and welcome back.
Good morning, Daniel Dazi, and good to be here again.
Great. Let's do the front pages, shall we?
Let's start with the goods trade business. Industry pushes for policy change, outlines 10 key areas for attention. Labor market information system starts this year with World Bank's support. GRE usurps parliamentary powers, grants tax exemptions without authority. Those are the stories on the front page of the goods trade business.
On the front page of the Ghanaian Times this morning, we have Let's Use It to Identify with Africa, a Panifest 2019 platform. Let's use it to identify with Africa. President urges black people. Government releases 150 million Ghana cedis to defray arrears owed GSFP caterers, then that's Ghana School Feeding Program. And Finance Minister presents media budget review today.
The Chronicle newspaper, after 10 years of oil production, Ghana rakes in $5 billion from oil, but PIAC says, and Public Interest and Accountability Committee, that's PIAC, says there is nothing to show for it. Motion asking judge to recuse himself in Denchira Palace case thrown out. NDC's Akahoho makes inroads in Tema West constituency. Woman fertilizer smuggler grabbed by police. NLA to fund ultra-modern sports stadium for veterans. Those are the stories on the front page of the Chronicle newspaper.
On the front page of the Independence, there's a picture of former President John Mahama doing the Usain Bolt sign. Remember, the one that came after the No Ababase.
The NDC's version of we are not going back. Moving forward.
All right then. But it's captioned 2020. I'll beat Akufo-Addo hands down. Mahama vows. It also has public university bill consults widely before presenting to Parliament. Otumfuo speaking there. And 1D1F. President throws weight behind Keda Ceramics.
The final newspaper. Closure of 347 microfinance companies, 21.7 million paid to 33,000 depositors. Receiver validates 480 million. Other stories on the front page of the Finder newspaper. US Speaker and congressional delegation arrives in Ghana. Mobile customers to enjoy 400 megabytes data, others for 1 CD from Glo. Talo MD charges graduates to be ethical and principled, and NLA, that's the National Lottery Authority, retools VAG with 8 buses.
And that's the Finder. Shall we do the Herald now? And the $51 million gold scam. Suspect reveals how money got cleaned. Ex-Yoko boss confirms arrest and bail, but CID silent. George underflexes muscle at Hannah Tete's sister. And DR Congo president invites Ibrahim Mahama over bauxite and energy. There's also minority vows to resist draconian tax increments today.
The minority, not specifically minority, but the NDC is on the front page of the New Crusading Guide. An interesting headline, Daniel. Juju Scare rocks NDC as parliamentary aspirant paralyzes after filing nomination form. Teshi gets new chief. Western North residents go wild. Those are the stories on the front page of the New Crusading Guide newspaper.
The Daily Guide also has some politics here. Election 2020, Mahama cries over rigging. US Speaker arrives in Ghana and minority cocoa propaganda falls flat. That's all on page 6. Asante women are evil. Bedu Kobi claims, a smiling picture of Prophet Bedu Kobi on the front page there. NDC will collapse free SHS, Education Minister warns, and veterans get massive resources.
The Daily Graphic newspaper is the last paper that I have. Slavery must never recur. That's President saying at the start of Panafest. Other stories on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Ghana Medical Association demands payment of debts NHIA owes health facilities. Injured passengers don't claim insurance. That's Deputy Transport Minister Titus Glover saying, do not neglect families of missing girls. Child Rights International is admonishing the government. Back page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Government dredges White Volta tributaries. Those are the stories here.
I think I see another paper in front of you, Malik. But from the Daily Graphic, we go to the Daily Statesman. A petrol mobile tax to go up as energy bills suck away cash for roads. It has a picture of the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta speaking that's related to the media budget review, which will be read later today. Mori mini harbour to be completed in 18 months, and Cuba to train 40 medical doctors annually from deprived communities.
The Today newspaper is the last paper. How Ofori-Atta presents mid-year budget review. Other stories: Otumfuo cautions government over university bill, and NDC aspirant hot. Those are the stories here.
Easily the biggest story that we are looking at today, Malik, is the story of the media budget review. Before we do anything else, let's hear what Kweku Kwarteng has been telling us about what's to expect.
Well, it's a bit of a couple of the things you have mentioned.
So new ones would happen, some new tax measures will be introduced?
Well, yes, there will be new measures, but they have been carefully considered. But they won't be as comprehensive as perhaps in the past tax measures have been. These are very specific interventions to achieve specific fiscal objectives. We would not, for political reasons, say because we said we're moving from taxation to production, even where some specific tax interventions are necessary, we will shy away from it because people might read politics. I think we are guided more by what is needed now.
So Kweku Kwarteng saying there that there will be specific tax measures introduced in the media budget review. The Daily Statesman is suggesting there that government intends to raise money through the cutting down on administrative costs and ensuring value for money and raising taxes on petroleum and mobile telephone use. Now, it proceeds to give a bit of an elaborate justification for why governments need to raise taxes, and it's mainly centered on the energy sector. Malik, here it goes. It says that this year government will pay $1 billion subsidizing the energy sector just to keep the lights on. Why are we paying these $1 billion subsidies? Because about 30 power purchase agreements were inherited by the Akufo-Addo government, and they would have given Ghana 10,000 megawatts capacity over the next 13 years against the 2017 peak demand of 2,400 megawatts. Now, this is what was the case in 2017. So governments proceeded in 2017 to review 26 of them based on demand projections, and the review has led to some terminations and deferments of others, saving the country an estimated $7 billion in the process. Now, where are we now, Malik? The installed capacity we have now is 5,083 megawatts, with a dependable capacity of 4,593 megawatts, with peak demand around 2,700 megawatts. Now, government must pay, this means governments must pay for 2,300 megawatts whether or not it is used. This is only 40% of this is currently being utilized. This means that more than $500 million, that's 2.5 billion Ghana cedis, is being paid for power that is not used. Now, since you are paying 2.5 billion Ghana cedis for power that is not used, we must necessarily raise taxes to cover that space because that power is not productive. Now, let me go to another page, incidentally, of the same Daily Statesman newspaper, where that picture is drawn more clearly. Page 6 says, car power ship relocation to be completed in August, says Ghana Gas. So simple. There's a car power ship in Tema, which according to the Daily Statesman itself, is currently lying idle while a huge sum of dollars is spent on servicing it monthly. Why is it lying idle? Because there's no gas coming to it. So the solution now is that this power plant is going to be relocated to the western region, specifically the Sekondi Naval Base, where gas from Atuabo gas plant will be fed to it. Now, officials of Ghana Gas Company Limited are saying that construction is almost done. There's 8 kilometers of onshore pipelines and 1.3 kilometers of offshore pipelines, which have successfully been laid. The project is about 83% complete, and it should make that plant operational.
And Dana, the reason why the car power ship is actually lying in Tema and we are paying a huge cost for it and not generating power out of it is this: when we signed the agreement with car power ship, and in fact that was what obtained in many of the agreements that we signed. The agreement indicated quite clearly that it was the duty and responsibility of the government of Ghana to provide fuel for these plants to generate power, and that at any point in time, if the government of Ghana is unable to produce the fuel, whatever capacity charges exist will still obtain. i.e., we will still pay whether or not they generate the power or not, because we have to provide the fuel. If we are unable to provide the fuel for whatever reason, we will still pay, because if we provided the fuel, they will generate the power. So if we're unable for whatever reason, whether it is gas or whether it is heavy fuel oil or whether it is whatever oil that we are fuel that we are supposed to provide, and we are unable to provide it, if the power ship is unable to produce power as a result of our failure or inability to provide the fuel, we will still pay.
Beautiful, Malik. Now, to the point of us having excess capacity in this country that we need to pay 2.5 billion Ghana cedis for. Do you know why VALCO was set up? VALCO was set up because we could not consume all the power that was being produced in the Akosombo time in the 1950s. So we entered an agreement with Kaiser. Of course, Kaiser also provided some of the funding we needed to set up the Akosombo Dam. But Kaiser was to take the excess power that we produced from the Akosombo Dam that the country was not using at the time. The problem is that for the excess capacity that we have, where are the factories that can take that power so that not only can we use them, we can use them productively to create jobs in the economy, export produce, and we could even talk of exporting some of the power. So this conversation about paying 2.5 billion Ghana cedis for power that we are not using, maybe we need to look at it a bit closely.
But export power, whilst that sounds exciting and encouraging, you have to note that in other parts of Africa, they are actually generating power at a lower cost at a cheaper cost compared to you.
Actually, our neighbors, we have some of the most expensive power.
Absolutely. So if you are generating at a higher cost and your power is more expensive, who are you going to sell to?
And that also means that for factories that have to buy power from our local power producers, when they produce, they would have more expensive, because it figures. If you are paying X amount for your power, you have to add that to whatever you are going to.
2 years ago, I went to the Daman area in the Western region where Goldfields operate. They were setting up their own power generating system because the power they were taking from ECG was too expensive for their operations.
Wow.
Absolutely. So these things happen. So you may have the power, but if the power is too expensive, it becomes, and it is not productive economically for a factory to take it, then they will look for other sources and they will not be encouraged at all. Now let's stay with money. The Gold Street Business is reporting that the GRA usurped the parliamentary powers to grant tax exemptions, and this is contained in an audit report submitted by the Auditor General. And the audit report is indicating that about 5.6 million Ghana cedis granted to some 5 companies were in clear violation of the constitutional provisions in Article 174 of the Constitution. And of course, we know that Article 147 essentially says that Parliament is the only body that has power to impose a tax. And 174(2) says clearly that any other agency or body that Parliament confers power on to vary taxes or grant tax exemptions must not do so unless Parliament approves same. The Auditor General is reporting, and this report is captured by the Gold Street Business, that the GRA granted some of these tax exemptions and they were not approved at all by Parliament. And they cite the example of Red Sea Housing Services, and they said this company is a free zones company and it sold prefabricated houses to 5 companies without the payment of duties or taxes, and this is because the GRA granted these tax exemptions. Daniel, if you remember, the imposition of taxes was the subject of the case that Kweku Kwarteng, then as opposition MP, who had this organization called Development Data. They took the MPA to court, arguing that the MPA had imposed a certain levy on petroleum products without parliamentary approval.
Okay.
The High Court actually agreed with them and struck out that levy, the ex-refinery differentials at the time. So this constitutional provision, and again, we know that the president himself has complained bitterly about tax exemptions and how they have increased over the years from in 2010 about 347 million to about 4-point-something billion in 2018.
You know my challenge, Malik, with tax administration in the country. GRA officials, GRA workers had a Durbar last week, And they mentioned
and
that
I heard some of them.
yes, they mentioned that there was undue interference from government when it comes to even persons that they hire and when it comes to how they do their work, and it's affecting their revenue mobilization targets.
Let me just mention what the president said in February this year when he delivered the State of the Nation address talking about tax exemption. He says revenue mobilization poses the biggest challenge in the management of our economy, with tax exemption policy in particular proving to be an Achilles heel and a growing menace in the fiscal revenue generation. And then he mentioned the figures, 392 million as of 2010, growing up to 4.66 billion in 2018. Tax exemptions alone.
You know what, Malik? Let's stay with money and talk about this 5 billion that we have raked in from oil revenue, because today is going to be really a revenue generation.
Absolutely. So since 2010, when we started oil production, you remember that we discovered oil in 2007. I remember Kofi Addo going to Parliament with a glass of oil. At the time, there was celebration. People wore white shirts to Parliament to celebrate the discovery of oil at the time in the Tano South. Deepwater Tunnel South, and then they kept 3 points.
Yeah.
We started the generation in 2010, almost 10 years down the line, regardless of all of the steps that we said we were going to take in order to avoid what is commonly known in oil production areas as the Dutch disease. We passed the law. We went to learn from the Norwegian example. 10 years down the line, the Public Interest and Accountability Committee is saying that there is not much to show for the 5 billion Ghana cedis, $5 billion that Ghana raked in from oil. And we know that some of the application of the oil revenues have been problematic. We remember Pierre complaining bitterly, and I remember Mohamed Amin Anta, who is currently a deputy energy minister in charge of petroleum, talking about government spreading oil money on so many projects that it was basically impossible to complete the projects within time, and that resulted in cost overruns as well. We remember PIAC last year or so arguing that some of the projects that the oil resources were supposed to have been applied to were non-existent. And again, we remember $44 million having been applied to capacity building. And this capacity building was what? Taking people to Dundee University, Coventry University to go and pursue masters in oil and gas, the majority of whom came back to Ghana and have absolutely no contribution to the oil production in Ghana, i.e. they have no jobs.
One of the typical examples, Malik, was when we found that the agric allocation to the budget was being replaced by the oil funds. So initially, agriculture was getting money from the budget, but then it came to be replaced by the oil funds, meaning the original funding that government was using for agric went somewhere else.
Remember the famous bus branding, that money also came from oil.
And it was supposed to go to railways.
Absolutely. And we applied it.
Now, here's the new problem that PIAC has with our oil funds. And I'm reading here from a publication from Ghana Web. And I think we have it on my Joy Online. Yes, it's actually my Joy Online story, pardon me. Now, out of the total of it, 202.38
after this.
Pardon me. Out of the total of 202.38 million Ghana cedis of oil money made available to the education sector, 196.38 million was used to fund the free SHS high school program, according to the 2017 report of PIAC. That is 97% of the entire allocation. It went to free SHS. Now, I'm having a conversation, pardon me, with Seth Tekpe, our former finance minister. He has a number of questions on some of the issues that we have raised. The first one he says is, where all the PPAs approved by Parliament at the end of 2016, the PPAs we mentioned in the Daily Statesman story. And he said that relocation of the pipeline started before the former government left office. Why delay? Anyway, he also makes the point about the oil funds and the free SHS. Good morning, Mr. Tekpe. Thank you very much for doing the listening. Malik, you know what? Let's wrap up with you, because there's this woman fertilizer smuggler who has been grabbed. You know what? No, let's do the microfinance story rather.
So let me just mention the woman. So she's Aisha Ibrahim. And not our Aisha Ibrahim at Joy News.
You shouldn't have
This
done
is
it.
not Aisha Wang.
Aisha Ibrahim.
This is not Aisha Wang. So this Aisha Ibrahim was smuggling 1,000 bags 1,050-kilogram bags of fertilizer meant for planting for food and jobs across the border at Paga in the Upper East region to 1,000 bags. And they found out that they were actually peeling off the planting for food and job stickers from the fertilizer and offloading them from a Ghana registered truck onto a Burkinabe registered truck in order that they will be taken into that country. A bag of fertilizer, subsidized fertilizer, is 75 Ghana cedis, that's MPK. Now, this is about 40-50% subsidized. When you take it and go and sell it, the 1,000 bags, 75 is 75,000 Ghana cedis. And if you go and sell it in Burkina, you make a lot more money. Even if it's 40% subsidy that the government is paying, you make a lot of money by selling this fertilizer. And yet, we have farmers in the upper parts of the country, upper west, upper east, northern regions, complaining that they don't have fertilizers to fertilize their farms.
So how did that fertilizer get to Aisha Ibrahim? That's a question that the Ministry for Food and Agriculture has to answer.
Absolutely.
And you see, the officials within the ministry have to be sanctioned if they are found to be involved. There's an investigation.
Rules to getting these fertilizers, and I told you the last time I am farming. I know that you have to get you have to fall within a certain category in order to be able to get these subsidized products.
Okay. Thanks, Malik. Let's do the online news review quickly. It's brought to you by Zenith Bank in your best interest and Goyle Good Energy. Now, of course, when it comes to traveling with ease and comfort, Zenith Bank's wide array of MasterCard and Visa cards will help you do just that. There are over 33 million Visa and MasterCard branded ATMs across the world. You can use it there. You can also use it online for purchases and payments. You can use it at any shop for payments of goods and services. Of course, there are Zenith Bank ATMs and on local and international POS or retail outlets that accept Visa and MasterCard. So sign up today, or if you already have one, use the Zenith MasterCard and Visa cards for a great travel experience. Hey, this Sunday I was sitting in church and some lady by me asked me if she can pay her offering and her tithe by card. Yeah, so Charlie, it's an interesting world we are in. Go light with Zenith Bank. It's faster and smarter. Zenith Bank in your best interest. Make your day productive by relying on quality fuel from Goyle. Your 3-time CIMG Petroleum Company of the Year. Goyle Super XP and Diesel XP are additivators to enhance strong engine performance and prolong the lifespan of your vehicle. Above all, you are guaranteed extra quality with our fuel analyzer from our mobile laboratory van. Get your money's worth every day by buying fuel and lubricants from any of Goyle's over 360 service stations nationwide and experience good energy. Buy Goyle, grow Ghana, Goyle, good energy, Goyle, Yenara Yedia. Now imagine a funeral finance plan that puts you in control from the start. That's what the Enterprise Funeral Finance Plan Unlimited does. With the Enterprise Funeral Finance Plan Unlimited, you have no limits and no restrictions. You are free to choose your premiums, policy, lifespan, beneficiaries, and even your benefits. No age restrictions and no lapse. Sign up for your Enterprise Funeral Finance Plan Unlimited today for your own good. Enterprise, your advantage. There's an op-ed on my J Online you want to read. It's true status of NPP's 17+ tax measures. ESTA, temporary and other taxes by former Finance Minister Tekpe. Good morning to you. Cash and carry looms in hospitals over NHIS debts. And BBC.com has dozens of mourners killed by Boko Haram at a funeral in North Nigeria. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
As an executive,